All right, y'all. I know y'all been waiting on it. We back with another episode. We back on the 88 C1500 of Nelson's. I ain't worked on it about 2 months. I figured it was about time to get back on it. We just got some tubing bent. If Dawson don't drop the air tank. There we go. Air tank's gonna mount in something kind of like this.
Something like that.
And then we're gonna have the VU4 is gonna be between the brace and the tank mounted. Figure we better give y'all an update because make sure the owner ain't sure he's ready to get his truck back. It's been a little while. Sorry, Nelson, but we back on it now. I'm doing a video. I love your posture. I love it. Good job, babe. Do the other 4, 3. That's the sharpest dull bit I've ever seen in my life. Good job, boo. You got it though. Come on. All right, so end of the night, me and Boo here. Dawson's out here piddling. We got the air tank structure, tubing, whatever you want to call it, mocked up. Got the compressor mounts relocated. I had to move them back about 5 inches from where they were. That's cute. That way we could get a nice loop on the air hose coming off, going straight into the tank. Got the VU4 pedestal mount. Spaced it away enough where we could get airlines hooked up easily. All right, let's show you what this looks like without an air tank. All right, hey, boo, move this air tank. There we go. Just some simple little tubing. Made a nice little structure. Got the relay mounted right here in the middle of the frame. That way the power wire from each side would reach. Wouldn't have to lengthen those. That's something I'm not a real fan of doing. And that's where we at for tonight. Where your PPE at? Where your safety glasses? That ain't nice. All right, so one of the problems with this truck, the frame was rusted. Where the back of the front of the bed was, the back of the cab. Turn your phone off, man. We're trying to film here on both sides. This side's worse than the other side. There was a cross member across here, but I think He-Man there ripped it off with his bare hands. So we're gonna cut this top of this frame out, replace it with new metal. Got some 2-inch wide, 1/4 inch there, and some plate for the inside the frame. And we're also gonna plate the inside here just to make sure it don't break in half whenever he starts driving it around. That's what happens when you live at the beach. So we're gonna get it fixed up for him now. Hercules. All right, so we got a piece of flat metal bent. Follows contours frame. Overlapped it on each end. Didn't want to cut any more out than what we had to, so we're going to attempt to weld it to this frame. It's pretty thin, but weld it best we can. So we got this frame plated, got all the rust cut out, plated on the inside, 1/4 inch plate, top and side. I ain't gonna show you all them top welds because the welding that rust sucked, but got it welded to the bottom. It was still pretty solid. Now the bad side. I'm gonna let Brandon weld this one. You got 60-18 with a stick?
70-18.
70-18, that's right. So if you notice with the truck laid out, it's got camber, but it's also got a bunch of toe pushing the tire out. The other side is the same way. So I've got to take the new inner and outer tie rod ends and shorten those up a little bit to get the tire straight with it laid out, and that should fix that problem. But right now they're all the way adjusted in, touching each other inside the adjustment sleeve. So we're gonna have to take one out and shorten it, which is no big deal. Most rough country lift kits, you gotta do the same thing to get in alignment. You gotta shorten one of the tie rod ends. So, just so y'all know, when y'all watch this is take number 618 of them trying to do an intro. They finally made me come do it with them. But now that I'm here, they're gonna do it just fine by themselves. Go.
No, we're not. Make the funny, Dawson.
Tell them what we're doing.
Make it funny.
We already did. You're in.
What we doing, KK?
Putting the gas tank in Nelson strap and the strappy thing on the gas tank.
What's different about that strap?
It's
different.
metal. There's two different things.
All right, so we got this strap. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Well, watch out then.
This is for a short bed. Dawson said this is GM new old stock. I don't know. I know it was 100 freaking bucks. So it goes around the front of the gas tank and actually bolts through the outside. This truck was a long bed, so it had its own cross member for the front of the gas tank, which was rusted into. We took that off without cutting it. But I got to put this up there, figure out where it mounts in the frame, plate that side of the frame, and then we can tear it all down and paint it. Finally, after like 6 or 8 months. It's been a while. Sorry, Nelson. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? All right, no, quite yet. Hold on just a second. All right, so what we did is we got a short bed front mount that bolts through the frame. The factory long bed had a cross member that went between the cab mounts here and just had a regular, right, if I can get the gimbal down there, regular short strap that held it up from the bottom, just like the rear. We got this short bed one, got it marked, going to pop our 4 holes in the frame, slide it through, put nuts on the outside. Gas tank's above the bottom of the frame. So I ain't gotta worry about him dragging it. It didn't get into the cab. Worked out pretty good. Hey. Oh, I thought he had something to say. when you buy the infamous raised gas tank cross member, it comes with a template that shows you how to move the front mount up, and that raises the gas tank evenly so that it doesn't drag the ground. With this truck not having that, we kind of just had to wing it. We put the tank in, we put the strap around it, we picked it up to where everything was above the frame, everything cleared, wasn't going to drag the ground, and then we just marked it and made our own holes. I got to trim a little bit off the bottom of the cab lip right here, just like I did for the drive shaft, just a hair. It's barely touching. I'm going to cut that. I showed y'all earlier that the frame was rusted bad on this truck. So I came in, I plated it. It's not the most beautiful welds in the world, but they're there. It's really hard to weld to rust. But I just left that open where I could get the front strap in there and get it in and out. Plated the top of the frame, quarter wall. Plated this, front and rear. And I don't think I'll ever have any trouble with it. All right, back out here today, Nelson's truck. I got to get some rear shocks mounted up. The way that these link bars are designed is to put a bolt goes in there and your shock mounts here. But because I narrowed the rear end so much, I had to pull this link bar in just a little bit, enough that now the shock won't fit there. So I'm going to run two tabs off the top of the link bar, run it up to the side of the notch. Keith sends this with the kit. It's a threaded bung, welds wherever you need it to. You know, you can move it all around wherever you need it to. Just a rough measurement with the tape. Looked like I needed around a 12-inch shock. So I ordered some Beltec Street Performer 2208 HF is the part number for the rear. They are 12 inches, I believe, collapsed, or 12 and a quarter. They're for the back of a C10 that's lowered. So fixing to get this tire snatched off where I got some room. I got a couple tack welds here where we had the rear end weld to the notch. Clean all that up real good, and then I can start welding. I got to cut me some tabs for the bottom, and then the top already got the bungs. So let's get it. All right, so I got me some lower shock tabs cut. Got the upper stud. Get my welder run out. Let's see if we can get these things mocked up. As you can tell, worked out just about perfect. Still gets a ton of lift. It's going to lay all the way out with the bag fully collapsed, and it's not above the top of the notch. So worked out perfect. And this is not the part number that Keith sent me. What he sent me was basically a stock replacement, which would have been a hair longer. So if the bottom of this bolt would have been down here, it would have worked perfect too. But with me moving it up to here, I needed a hair bit shorter shock, and what I got seemed to work perfect. And these Beltec, these Street Performers, and the Nitro Drop 2s are my go-tos, especially the Drop 2s. I love those. These are actually a little bit more expensive than the Drop 2. But they work. They just, on a static drop truck, they just seem to be a little bit more floaty to me. I like that stiff. I want it to hit the bump and come right back one time. These seem to kind of float on out a little bit longer, but they work good. They work extremely good. If they didn't work good, I wouldn't be putting them on here. So now just gotta go do the other side, make it match this side, and then finish welding it out, be ready to paint. All right, so on this front suspension, the control arms, the new control arms, are narrower. What that does is pulls your tire away from the fender a little bit. As you know, on this truck we run a spoke, so we had to go in, and it barely tucks on this thing. But we had a toe issue that I showed you earlier in the video. Both front tires are towed out, laid out. The problem is the new tie rod ends are still stock length with everything else narrowed. So the threads are bottomed out in here against each other. So I'm gonna pull this apart. I'm gonna cut, I already done the other side. I cut 1.25 inches off the outer tie rod end and give me enough room to get it pulled in straight. So that's what we're gonna do on this side, and show you how it fixed the problem. And there you go, 1.25 inch cut off. Why is this phone blurry? There you go, 1.25 inch cut off, and rounded edges. Maybe we can get it started back in there. Let's go see. All right, so I've been out here working, trying to figure out what I was gonna do about front shock. I think I got it figured out. With this truck having a spoke on it, the offset's more out towards the fender. So it gives me a little bit more room as the wheel turns here to mount a shock. These Infamous kits don't come with any shock mounts. He may offer a shock mount, I'm not sure. I didn't get any with this kit. But once again, this is a drop shock for a C10 that's lowered. It's a Street Performer. Part number is 2103 on that part. What I did is I had a 4-link tab that come with some 4-link that I didn't use. I made the hole a little bit bigger so that this stud would fit through it. And then I used that up top. All right, and I kept the entire tab because in my eyes, that'll be stronger than me butt welding that straight to the top of the frame. That just looks to me like it could flex a lot easier. So I left the entire tab intact. I may go back in and round the corners before I fully weld it. I was just trying to mock everything up, make sure it's gonna work. On the bottom, just had a regular shock tab. Had to drill the hole out a little bit bigger to fit the bolt through there, but just hung it off the bottom of the control arm. I'm gonna put gussets here and here once I pull the control arms off to paint them, and then that should have the front shocks. And then I'll show y'all what it looks like collapsed. And that is fully collapsed, and the shock is almost fully collapsed. There's still it can go a little bit more, but it worked out perfect. All right, here's with the tire on. You see we got plenty of clearance. That's a full lock turning. I'm gonna gusset off of here, tie on into the control arm on both sides so that this doesn't bend or break off. Do the same at the top, and hey, front's got shocks. Now I just got to make this side match this side, which seems to be harder to me than building it in the first place. So once I get this fully welded out, that is it. It is done. All the fab work is done on the frame, and we can tear this guy down and start painting stuff. Then once you get to that point, you know it's all right. So it's getting dark on me here. I'll show y'all what I come up with. I got a single gusset off the back side. That should be plenty. And then on the bottom, I just made a couple little round gussets. Ignore my piece of welding wire sticking out there. I'll get that off in a second. And now it has shocks. All right, so I'm gonna cut this video off here. Yeah, it's like 55 degrees. It ain't even that cold, but I cut all my hair off. My head's freezing, and I'm not real happy about it. But we got shocks on front and rear today, which was, I was kind of sweating it, but it actually went really smooth. Once I get the passenger side shock mounts welded on, because I only done the driver's side so far, But that's easy. We just replicate it on the other side, and once I get that done, it's time to tear it all apart and get ready to wire wheel everything, which is going to take forever. But it's got to be done. So we're going to wire wheel everything, get all the surface rust off, get ready to spray it with PCC chassis paint. PCC, sorry, I said that a little fast. Chassis paint, you get it at, it's Nason brand, you get it at O'Reilly's, Napa, wherever. It's a black single stage paint. I painted the frame on my dually 10 years ago with that stuff, and when you get under it now, it's still shiny. It still looks good. I am a firm believer in that stuff. So we're almost to that point where we can paint the frame. Once we get the frame painted, wire it, plumb it, final assembly, cotter keys and everything, tighten all the bolts, double check everything. Once we get the airbags plumbed, we got a body drop to bed floor. That's going to be a whole video in itself because that is a very involved project. And I also have to build fender wells under the hood. And I've got to build a battery tray to put the battery back in the factory location, but just high enough so that the tire doesn't hit it, which those tires aren't very tall, so it shouldn't be too hard. And I've got to do an A-pillar pod with 3 gauges. That'll be part of the wiring and plumbing. And go over all the fluids and everything and make sure everything's good. I've got one injector on the motor. There's something going on with it when I put the motor in, and I hadn't figured that out yet. I got my buddy Justin. I'll get him to come over. He is like a freaking genius with these motors. Yeah, Justin Newton, I'm talking about you. He knows these things front and back. I'm get him to come over and see if he can check it out, figure out what's wrong with it. I make him figure it out, but he knows more about it than I am. He can probably look at it and be like, oh, it's that. And then simple. I just don't know anything about TBI motors. If it's an LS motor, I could probably figure it out. If I had a carburetor on it, I'd probably figure it out. Throttle body injection. I can put one in. That's about it. But I appreciate y'all coming back. Video 6. I know it took a while to get it up. I had a bunch of people in the comments asking for it. When we're going to get back on it, we're on it. The weather, if it'll cooperate this week, it's supposed to be cold, but tomorrow's the only chance of rain. So maybe we can get this thing painted. Me and my dad's going to the Moultrie swap meet this weekend, so I won't be around Saturday. Just gotta see what the weather holds. I think the high for Saturday is 52, and I'm not real happy about that, but what can you do? It's getting wintertime. Thank y'all for checking it out. Come back. Video 6 be up, or video 7, I'm sorry, will be up soon. Thanks.